Welcome to Almost Fast Racing. This is not me. This is a clip of Jacobetto racing the series called Spec E30, which uses BMW 3 Series from 1984 to 1991. Unfortunately, I can't race my 1988 convertible in Spec E30 because safety, it's an open-top car. So instead of buying a coupe or a sedan that already runs and drives and stripping it down and turning it into a race car, I picked up a coupe in mint condition if you don't count the fact that there's no motor, no transmission, no interior, and it's missing most of the body panels. But before I can build this into a race car, I have to strip it down and make sure there's no damage or hidden rust that's structural. So that's what we're doing today. So far, the only racing I've done has been autocross. Autocross is low barrier to entry and is a great place to start out. The track is designed usually using traffic cones and are shorter and tighter than a typical racetrack. Cars are timed as they are sent through the course, and there's only one car on the course at a time, so it's a bit safer and a little bit less terrifying than going out on a full racetrack. Another plus is you can bring almost any car to participate. There are many different classes. I've even used my daily driver to participate before. The idea here is once I get comfortable with autocross, both with my abilities as a driver and with the car that I built, I want to race on a larger circuit such as Lime Rock or Watkins Glen. This is why I bought this coupe.
Until then, first priorities, get a motor in it, autocross it, some Lime Rock days, and then still try to find somebody to put a NASA Spec E30 acceptable cage in it. But yeah, that's this car.
The coupe I bought is a rolling chassis for a 1990 325i that was originally an automatic. My plan is to remove any damaged parts or any parts we don't need. As I pull parts off, I can see the car is in decent condition. There's no structural rust. The only rust on the car is some surface rust and a hole under the throttle pedal and in the typical E30 spot under the battery tray in the trunk. The brakes and all the suspension wear parts will definitely need to be replaced, and the driver door that came with the car is meant for a convertible, so I'll have to replace that. Luckily, the door is in perfect condition, unlike the driver door in my 1988 BMW convertible, so I'm going to count that as a win. Alright, while you watch me struggle to get the coupe into the garage, I'll explain what my plan is to work my way up to Spec E30 racing. First step, I'm going to build a car to bring to the track for high performance driving events. You can bring almost any car to high performance driving events. However, I want to start with a car that I plan on using for a long time so I can become familiar with the way the chassis handles and learn and grow with that specific car. Next step is to actually sign up and attend a high performance driving event that allows beginners. These events typically have instructors that will ride with you, and I'm going to need a lot of instructing. In order to race in Spec E30, you need your competition license. As I improve over time, I'll be able to go from high performance driving experience run group 1 all the way up to run group 4. Once I'm in run group 4, I can apply for my competition license. Alternatively, I could attend a Skip Barber racing school, but I'm a slow learner and I really want to take my time with it. Ta-da! I'm going to remove the sunroof from this car to convert it to a slick top. This will remove some weight from the top of the car, and the sunroof's rusted anyway. Now that we've got the whole interior and the engine bay stripped, we're going to wire wheel them and paint it so that we don't get any rust. Next, we'll put it back in the garage and start to strip the suspension off. First, we'll get the whole front subframe removed as one. It's only about 10 bolts, and it's easier to assemble once it's off the car. I'm going to end up using the steering rack from a different car and the suspension from a different car because I know they're in good working condition. So, but meanwhile, I'll just get this disassembled because I am going to be using this front subframe because it's rust-free. I'm going to be replacing the ball joints that go into the control arm, so I'm just going to hammer them out and mushroom the hell out of them. Now that we have the interior and the front end stripped, let's move to the rear subframe. We're going to start with these bolts here, which hold the rear subframe bolt washers on, and then we'll clean up and oil the rear subframe bolts, washers, and nuts, and that way while we pull out the rear end links and the rear brake lines, the oil can work on the rust. And these brake lines were pretty bad, pretty rusted through, so it's a good thing we're replacing those.
When you're doing your brakes, you don't want to just let your caliper hang off the brake lines. It's going to do some damage. So what I like to do is relieve that tension with a razor blade. There you go. No tension on the brake line. Won't ruin it.
We're going to carefully remove the calipers so we can reuse them at a later time. To remove the parking brake cable from the brake dust shield, we're going to have to remove this larger section. So we'll kind of wiggle it out from behind the hub, and we'll pull the cable out far enough to remove this pin, and that way we can just remove that piece and then pull it back through the brake dust shield.
Now this can be pulled out. And you can drop your whole subframe.
Next, we're going to loosen the subframe nut back up, and then hammer gently the rear subframe bolt loose out from inside the car. Now we need to separate the rear subframe from the rear subframe bushing, and they're stuck on there pretty good.
My idea here is to get the ratchet strap to the bottom of the jack, something pushing on the center of that bushing, and the ratchet strap going around the subframe. So hopefully they jack it up, it'll pull the subframe out. We'll be right back for safety messages. All right, we're back. We got our safety tires over here. It's working. Hey, there we go.
Same thing on the other side, using the sockets to press only on the rear subframe bushing, and using a ratchet strap that goes around the bottom of the jack and over the rear subframe. This side had no satisfying pop, but it still freed the subframe from the bushing. So it worked 2 out of 2 times. That wasn't too bad, and now we can disassemble the suspension and put some fresh new bushings and suspension components on. To remove the rear bushings from the car, it only took a few taps from a hammer. Now that we have our car stripped down to a chassis, it's ready for a new suspension, new drivetrain, and a new motor. Should I use the 95 horsepower motor from the MVB? Or should I use the 4-wheel drive V6 with a 6-speed manual from my Jeep? Or maybe, for good fuel economy, we'll use a 1.4 liter turbo from my daily driver. Nope. We're going to swap everything from my 1988 E30 convertible into this coupe, and that way we can take it racing. Tune in next time to see how that goes.